All right, good evening, everybody. Welcome to Comic Book Radio. Thank you guys for being here. I'm your host, Peter Cimetti, and this is episode 174. Tonight, my guest is Mr. James NGUYEN, and we're going to be talking about his comic book, Alpha Red, and also, as you can see from the title, Faith in Comics. A bit of a double entendre with that, and we'll discuss both angles of that phrasing. Before we bring James on, I want to say hello to you guys. But even before that, I want to let you guys know, channel memberships are back. They're back. You can become a channel member for 99 cents a month. You get access to hundreds, well, over 100 videos, archived stuff. A lot of open mics that people might have missed. A lot of older interviews from a couple of years ago. And also the emojis in the chat. Some of you guys really enjoy that. Thank you guys for using them. I'm glad you do. But thank you guys so much. If you do want to support me in a different way, if you enjoy the channel, whatever that may be in terms of what I'm doing with comics here, interviews, etc., obviously, go to alternacomics.com, pick up some great comics. Go to kingcryptid.com, check out my series. All right, let me say hello to you guys. We got Ben here in the chat. What's up, Ben? This is Hail Pete and Chat had a rough day. But looking to end it on a positive note with some good comic book talk. Well, I hope everything's okay, Ben. But I'm glad to see you here, and we're going to have a good conversation tonight. I hope everything's okay with you, my friend. There's James in the chat. Says, excited to be here. Thanks for having me, Pete. No problem, James. Looking forward to it. Creative Outlet, Creators Outlet is here. Hail, nerds. What's up, Creators Outlet? Boombots. What's up, Boombots? How's it going? We got Kellraiser in the house as well. What's up, Kellraiser? You raising Kel somewhere? Cole King, how's it going, Cole? Thank you for being here. Good to see you. Did your big old box of Alterna arrive yet, Cole, or is it still on the way? You got a bunch of things coming to you, my friend. Ray, what's up, Ray? Thank you for being here. Says excited for this. Big Alpha Red fan. Well, there you go. Good stuff. All right. So I got a bunch of links also in the description of the show for James's YouTube. You can check out his Kickstarter. It just ended, I think maybe a day or two ago. It was successful. And also he's got an Etsy store. So you guys can go check that out too. All right, so let me bring him on without further ado, because there has been a little bit of ado. We don't want to have too much ado. Mr. James NGUYEN. What's up, James?
How you doing, Pete? Thank you for having me.
No problem at all. Thank you for being here, man.
Yeah, I'm excited.
Looking forward to talking to you.
Sure. Same.
Yeah. So I gotta ask you, you're doing a comic like Alpha Red, in terms of it seems like it's a very personal comic for you. What was the inspiration for that?
Yeah, so it started off as just your normal, I'm gonna do a comic for fun, and it kind of took on a life of its own as you spend a lot of time with the pages. The story kind of tells itself, and it kind of nudges you in directions that you might not have originally planned. And I originally created it with a partner, a co-creator, and it was going to be your generic resume to try to break into the Marvel or DC. So it's just going to be us having fun with superheroes, and it didn't have to be deep. It didn't have to be. It didn't have to change the world.
So it started off as a pitch for another company?
Really, just like, like at the time, people were telling me, just draw comics and that becomes your resume. And then you walk up to an editor and say, hey, I can prove that I did a comic. I can do a comic. This is what it looks like. This is all the storytelling. And then you add your Spider-Mans and your Batmans and all that.
Okay. So I have frame of reference. Around what year was this?
I want to say around 2011, shortly after here. I don't know if you know this, but my first published work was in this comic.
Oh, no way. The first volume of Fubar.
Yeah. So I met Jeff Tecumseh at Baltimore Comic Con somewhere, so at some point, and he asked me to be a part of that, and so
Oh,
that's
very cool.
was in alternate comics.
Very nice. Well, look at that. Look at
Yeah.
that. I just sold my copy of Volume 1 a couple weeks ago. I sold it to like get us past into the stretch goal for
Yeah.
the April campaign.
How
So
much?
if you've got that, I think
I
it's sold maybe for like 50 or 60, something like that.
Yeah.
If you're the person out there who won that, I forget at the moment who exactly, but flip through it. Find James's story. Did you write it too, or did you just draw it?
No. So that was that's how I partnered with the co-creator. Was Jeff hooked us up on the Fubar book, and so after we did Fubar, I did 8 pages of Fubar with Mike and Bowden. He said,
Oh, okay.
and so I said, nothing. Let's kind of create something and just have some fun, and out came Alpha Red. And then
Wow.
as I was working on it, we were like 16 pages in when I approached Mike, and I was having this spiritual journey, and I said, a friend of mine from Bible study said, "Hey, you're spending a lot of time drawing. Does it honor God?" I said, "No, I'm just having a lot of fun." And he said, maybe with your time and your talent, maybe you should consider honoring God with that. And so I took it to Mike and I said, "Hey, what do you think?" He's like, "That's not my thing. If you wanna go in that direction, you can just take it and go." So I had to retool the whole story, come up with something that I felt honored God. So the character Wes started his own spiritual journey, where in the beginning he's not a believer, and then by the end he has to save the world from the devil. Only after he has enough faith, only when he finds the faith in God to fully activate the suit and become the hero he needs to be.
Oh, okay. Before I ask you my follow-up question here, I want to acknowledge Cole. Cole says, "You got your box. That's awesome, man. I'm glad to hear it. Your son's only 2 and enjoys the figures and likes King Cryptid, man. Well, truth is from the mouth of babes, and I'm so glad that your son and you are enjoying it, man. That's awesome. So, James, were you? Was there a catalyst for your spiritual journey, or were you always spiritual, religious, that kind of a thing?"
So I grew up Catholic, 13 years of Catholic school, going through the motions, really, if I'm being honest. Immigrant family. My parents were devout Catholics. I was an altar boy. So that was with me. I had the knowledge of it, but it was really not anything that I took seriously. And then after I graduated from high school, you find the girls and the booze and the party guys, and you just try to fit in with what everybody else is doing. And you start wandering. And then it was really when I met my wife, I was kind of 4 or 5 years into all the boozing and the chasing girls and stuff, and it was just a hamster wheel, and it felt empty. And so I was looking for something else. And then I met my wife, and we started going out. She was a cradle Christian, but she was kind of wandering from her faith. And once we started dating, she got more serious about her faith. And then she was like, "Well, we can't get married because you're not a Christian." I was like, "Well, why don't you hang on, and maybe I'll do some soul searching and see what comes out the other end." And thankfully, I had a lot of great conversations with a lot of strong believers that kind of walked me through some of the skepticism that I had, and just all the hard stuff that I didn't want to look at or didn't think was important. And it wasn't. I don't want to say it was like a one night. I was one way, and then I turned completely around and dropped all my sins, and I'm just this holy rolling.
Oh yeah, nothing's like that lasts anyway. Right.
So I slowly turned the boat around, and then as I grew, I still wanted to draw, and I still thought I wanted to draw Spider-Man and anything Marvel, X-Men, Spider-Man, whatever. That's what I like. I like the Image guys. I was part of all that. Um, so that's the direction I wanted to go, and thought that I could just be a Christian and work for Marvel or DC. I wasn't picky, but thankfully I got a stack of rejections that that are pretty thick. So.
When were you trying to get into Marvel and DC? Was it around the 2011 time period?
Yeah, all the way up to probably 2011. I probably stopped, I don't know, 2012, 2013, when I really had to start working. Like the full-time job was hard, and it was time consuming, and there was just not much time to draw. So
do you mind saying what were you doing for a full-time job?
I was working in trucking at the time.
Oh,
So
wow.
lots of hours, lots of
Okay.
overnight shifts. I picked up a second job, and so it was just tough times. My wife stays home with the kids, so it was single income, just trying to make it work.
You were driving a truck?
No, so I was unloading and loading trucks initially.
Oh, okay.
A supervisor, and then when you're in supervision, they just kind of break you over the coals. You're working 60 hours or salary, so you're opening the dock, closing the dock whenever they need you, and odd hours. And so,
Oh, yeah. Yeah, not a lot of time for comic book making, that's for sure.
No.
Man. That's
So
something that I find interesting, too, is that so many people out there, they have like a full-time job or multiple jobs or whatever. I did it for the first 6 or 7 years of Alterna as well. And I mean, people talk down on themselves and they beat themselves up about it, but there's nothing to be beating yourself up about. I mean, you're doing what it takes to make your dreams come true, and that's commendable.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Yeah, there were a lot of stops and starts in that period for Alpha Red. Any chance I get, I would do it, and then you get inspired by whatever's going on in comics, or movies were coming out, and so you just want to draw the Iron Mans, and you get all sucked back into the mainstream stuff, thinking that that's the way to go. And then you're like, but the story just keeps eating at you. Like, I have a story, and I think about it all the time, and it won't let me sleep until I put it down on paper and show other people.
At this point, have you given up doing the mainstream? How's that going for you?
At this point, or when I went back to
Well, at this point now in your comic career.
Yeah, no, I have no desire to. I'm not chasing that dream anymore. I mean, if somebody said, "Hey, you want to draw Spider-Man?" I'd come back for Spider-Man. I'd come back for Batman, for Ninja Turtles. But that's
so. Those are the three temptations.
For sure.
Get you to the dark side.
Yeah. I'm having so much fun with Alpha Red. I got plans for a couple of stories, so I want to see those come to life.
Nice. So you mentioned a lot about how your faith is really important in terms of you creating this story, so much so that you kind of parted ways with a creator early on. What aspect of Christianity is brought into the story where it is so much of an element that a creator would walk away from it?
Yeah, I don't know if I had anything defined initially. So he kind of walked away from it when I said, "Hey, I really feel like I want to take it in a Christian direction," and he was like, "I don't know how to fit that in. I don't have a desire to go in that direction. So if that's the way you want to go, then you can have it."
Okay.
And it's hard, because I was the artist, a writer just doesn't have a choice, I guess.
So maybe he was kind of coming into it feeling like that wasn't really a strong suit of his in terms of writing a character or a story like that.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, we didn't know each other very, very well. We just worked on FUBAR, so that was a couple of months of interaction. Yeah. As we were setting up Alpha Red, we named Alpha Red, and then it has an underlying similarity to the original story where, there's a corrupt politician who's creating an army that's going to take over America. It was supposed to be kind of like a Captain America comic. And then our hero was supposed to get the chip implanted in his head, and he was going to, he was going to save the day from the evil politician. You know? But once I felt the call to bring in the faith aspect, the stakes had to get bigger. So, if he has to grow in his faith, and what bigger stakes than for the enemy to be the devil. So he takes on the devil and saves the whole world instead of saving just America.
Shh, giving things away, James. Will he save the world?
so it's, I love comics, right? So it's like, it doesn't matter. Like, as long as the good guy, I'm not, predictability doesn't stop me from watching something. Or
yeah,
I just watched the Ninja Turtles again, the movie, the live action movie again, for the first time for my boys.
The 1991?
Yeah, it holds up so good.
Oh, it's great.
All the actors are going to be at this next convention that I'm going to on Saturday. So,
no way.
Yeah.
Nice.
All the original Turtles except for Ernie Reyes Jr. is going to be.
Well, he was in the second movie, right?
Yeah, he was in the second movie, but he was Leonardo in the first movie. He was under the.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Man.
So you got the original April O'Neil is going to be there.
I liked her the best. I couldn't get into the second April O'Neil.
For sure.
And I thought it was such a miss not putting Casey Jones in the second movie.
Yeah.
That felt weird too.
Yeah,
But
I don't think Casey Jones is coming. Now that you mentioned him, but yeah, no, I'm excited to see them.
That's awesome. What convention is that?
Syracuse Collectors Con. It's in Syracuse.
Okay. Well, anybody going to that? Syracuse, New York? Correct?
I'm on. Yep. Syracuse, New York, at the State Fairgrounds.
All right. Well, there you guys have it. If you're going there, you said this weekend?
This weekend, Saturday and Sunday.
Okay. All right. So yeah, if you're going and you're in the Syracuse area, stop by. See if you can find James. Are you exhibiting there, or are you going there just as a con or just for fun?
I got this new banner just for.
Nice,
so
nice.
I have a table runner thing, and it's in anticipation from the money coming in from the Kickstarter, the successful Kickstarter. We made 291% of goal, so there's going to be a little bit of extra money for things to help me promote Alpha Red. So
fantastic. Is that one of those nice like retractable type banners?
It is. This one is 6 foot. Well, it's over 6 foot because I'm about 5'11" and a half. But
nice. Yeah, that looks great, man. Well, best of luck to you. Have you done that show before? Have you attended before?
This is the first one for this show, but it's a 2-day. They got all kinds. They got the Ninja Turtles because it's the 40th anniversary of Ninja Turtles. It's they have wrestlers.
Oh my lord, that's crazy,
right?
Yeah, that's true.
44.
Yeah. Holy smokes! It's gonna be my 40th anniversary soon too.
Oh boy! Oh, you're a young buck.
Yeah, I'll be July 4th. I'll be 40.
Yeah.
Man,
you start pushing 50, your family starts making fun of you, for sure.
You're past 50?
I'm 49.
Oh, you're on the precipice.
Oh man,
you look fantastic though, brother.
Oh no, I appreciate it.
It's those Asian genes, man. Like right. I'm half Chinese, half Sicilian. Once you hit like 65 though, all of a sudden you sprout like the long white beard and
you're like this. No hair. Fu Manchu, you can't shave.
You're like 25, 65, 110.
Truth.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Yellow don't mellow.
Yeah.
Until you hit 65.
That's right.
You look great, man. That's amazing. Fantastic.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, well, yeah, Spicer says congrats on reaching that goal. Yeah, there you go. Now, for your Kickstarter, are you bringing it over to like Indiegogo or Fund My Comic or anything like that?
No, some people asked me to, and I don't understand the strategy behind that. Like running a campaign is a lot of work, and I'd rather be drawing. I have Alpha Red number 6 on the drawing table, So I want to get back to that. I'm kind of happy that this Kickstarter is done. And as soon as the fulfillment gets out, I'm right back at issue number 6. I'd like to have that out by September, October,
Yeah, that sounds good. Well, the thing though is sometimes people like to it's weird with crowdfunding. It's like you have your stores you shop at, and some people like to shop at certain stores. Some people have tried to get me to go to like Kickstarter too, but I'm just like, I've been there, done that, and I didn't really have too much of a great experience. I prefer Indiegogo right now, but then Indiegogo is kind of like as well. So now we're on our own site and putting like pre-orders through, but we also have Indiegogo campaigns.
Yeah.
I've tried out Fund My Comic, might try them out again in the future, but
Right.
it's one of those things where I get it, but if you ever are thinking about trying out a different platform, I would definitely say, yeah, go for it.
Yeah.
I encourage you to experiment with that. And Grok, I'm not old, I'm experienced, brother. 40 years of experience. And still learning, and many more years to come. But that's the thing that's great about getting your stuff out there, is that there are some people where they only stick to that site. So it's
Right.
like it is like putting it in a different store and finding a new audience. And then other times, you feel like you're bringing that audience to wherever you go.
Do you find that do you know of anybody who does both at the same time? Because I've only heard people do Kickstarter then Indiegogo, and not.
Oh, man, there's got to be somebody. I can't think off the top of my head of people who've done that at the same time. At Alterna, we will simultaneously run the campaign on the Alterna site and on Indiegogo. And for Alternaween last year, we did Fund My Comic, Indiegogo, and the Alterna site at the same time. The vast majority of people are supporting us directly, so they go right to the Alterna site.
Yeah.
But there are still people who will just purchase stuff from us on Indiegogo, so much to the point that on this campaign, we brought in a bunch of back issues and things like that have never been on Indiegogo before, because the series was old or whatever it's done. And I figured, let's list them, even though it's a lot of them to list. And people that only shop through Indiegogo with us, they bought a bunch of those back issues. So I was kind of surprised, but not surprised, because people like to stay to what they prefer. But I do encourage people to give our direct site a shot, because there's a lot more on there. It's a lot easier, and things are only going to get better as far as what we could do on there. But yeah, I've never seen anybody run like a Kickstarter and an Indiegogo at the same time. Does anybody know anyone who's done that, where they run it on both those platforms? Anthony, you're saying Irene does it both at the same time with Kickstarter and Indiegogo? Not like one and then the other or anything like that?
It's just so time consuming. I can't imagine doing it for another month. You're doing it for 4 weeks at minimum, and then you add another 4 weeks, and it's a bit of a grind to kind of, because you're marketing at the same time.
Oh yeah.
Updating people, and you're trying to get new people, and you're trying to keep the old people happy, and so they don't run away. Some people have supported and then taken back their support. I don't know. It has happened to me. So when you
what issue are you up to right now with the series?
Number 5. So I got done with issue number 5 last year around April or May. It was available, but I was running for local office. I don't know if you remember from the Pop XP.
Oh yeah.
So I wasn't promoting it. Couldn't promote it. Didn't have time. And then once I got to November, didn't win. I was like, you know what? Go back to my first love and do the comic thing. And I found a lot of people like you and everybody were so generous with their time and their knowledge. And
there's a lot of great people out there that are fantastic with that.
Yeah.
What do you enjoy more, campaigning for your comic or campaigning for office?
Oh my, no, there's no choice. There's no comparison. Campaigning for office is like the worst. There's a reason why people don't do it, and only the bad people get in, because they're the only ones who can put up with it. I don't know. It's torture. People talk about you. They don't know. They don't know who you are, and they'll talk about you.
Man,
They do.
maybe you just haven't been in comics long enough, James.
I'm learning about that too. I'm learning about that too.
Did you meet anyone along your way politically that you were like, they're not so bad?
Oh yeah, there. You have to have like a group of grassroots people who kind of believe in you, and anybody that I met was very encouraging, and they were happy to see a new face uh, put their hat in the ring. You know, it was like anybody that I talked to said that they were going to vote for me. They're, you know, uh, but I just couldn't get around. Couldn't get around to everybody.
Man, wow. Well, that's fascinating to me. Would you ever consider running again, or are you done with that?
I didn't really picture myself running initially. To begin with, I was in the political process to kind of help um, pick the people who made it to November. So the political process, the way it works, is a committee endorses a candidate for their political party, and then if somebody doesn't agree with the endorsed person, then they primary them. They go out, they collect enough signatures to force a primary, and then a primary happens. And so I wanted to be on the committee so that we could endorse better people, because getting your own signatures is a grind, and it's prohibitive. You know, like it keeps people out because it's, you know, it's in March. Like right now, they're collecting signatures, and luckily the temperature is okay this year. But last year it was like snowing sideways, and I'm knocking on doors for 3 or 4 hours after work. And
Yeah, you're in upstate New York.
yeah, upstate. Yep.
Yeah, that could be brutal.
Yeah. So it was absolutely terrible. So it keeps you away, but those committees will go out and get the signatures for the endorsed candidate, and then so when a candidate was endorsed that I didn't feel represented us, I I opposed him. I went out and got the signatures, and then I got sued, and then I got kicked off the committee, and then I was endorsed by the Conservative Party, and then
What the what?
yeah, yeah. You're not in. You're not, if they don't want you in, you're out, and they'll sue you to get you out. So,
Wow.
but
Democracy in action.
I did have like a group of loyal supporters helping me. So.
Holy smokes. You know, I know a lot about how messed up our political system is, and every time I'm like, I'm always surprised that I'm surprised.
Hey, you'd be even more surprised. Well, maybe you wouldn't be. It's just as dirty as you think. Like you would just shake your head and you go, "Yep, confirm." You know, like it is that slimy. They'll say one thing to your face, and then you're out, out.
Man, oh man, oh man. The more things change, the more they stay the same.
Yeah.
Comics for Life says, has your political life bled into your comic book storytelling?
I don't think so. I mean, there's a politician in my comic, but that was way before I became political. You know, more politically aware, and like the COVID years and stuff. I'm like, what's going on with all these stupid laws and stuff? Like, who's in charge here? And I didn't like what was going on, so I just kind of plugged in more, and just thought I could make a difference that way. And they didn't want me there.
Well, that's the thing that's so great is I find that the amount of people in the world who make a tremendous difference have nothing to do with politics or government.
Yeah.
You know, that's why anytime someone's like, "Oh, they're gonna make a difference if I vote them in," I'm like, "Well, you don't need to make a difference to have to vote someone in or whatever it may be." And people that are very, and not to get on a political bend on this conversation here, but you know, people aren't aware of how much power they have in terms of what they could do to make a difference in the world. And they think if I give my power to somebody else, then that'll empower them. And by empowering them, I'll be empowered. But more often than not, that is not the case. And, you know, I think if people realize how much power they have to be able to do something, to make an impact, to change someone else's life in a positive way, to make a difference for their friends, their family, their community, whatever that may be. If more and more people realize that, I think we'd have the world we want to have.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, people who want power and authority and control, they like to convince others that that's not possible unless you give them power.
Yep.
But man, so I digress on that tangent. But James, when you're creating your comic, because you're at this point, are you doing the writing as well?
So I was doing the writing, and so with issue number 6, after the 5-issue story arc that kind of completed his origin story, and he becomes a believer. You know, spoiler alert, issue 4, becomes a believer, and then has to put it into action and saves the day. But like I had a story that came immediately after that, like a aftermath of the world saving thing, and I just couldn't make all the pieces fit. So I had been contacted by a writer, and they asked if I needed any writing help, and I was like, no, I write this thing myself. And then I came back around. I said, you know what? I'm spending so much time writing, trying to make this story work. How about if I just ask the guy what kind of stories he has for Alpha Red? And he shot over 3 stories that were super fun, and I could picture it, I could imagine it. I was like, let's do it.
Oh, okay, so. Great. Okay. All right. So I'll switch up my question, because I was going to ask you, if you were doing everything, how's your approach to that in terms of coming up with the stories? But instead, I have a different question to ask you, because usually when I talk to people and they have a comic project, they're the writer, and then they kind of hire out an artist.
Right.
But for you, you're kind of doing it the opposite way. So what has that experience been like in terms of the stories that they're coming and pitching to you with, and then you're drawing them? How do you determine what you want to work on?
Yeah. So Ray, who was I assume that was the Ray that said he was a big Alpha Red fan. He's the writer, and he liked the character, and his pitch, he saw it. There he is. So he threw the angle at me from a fresh set of eyes, right? I had in my mind that Alpha Red is Peter Parker as Captain America, with Captain America powers, and that's kind of where it stopped. And I had a lot of James Bond references in there because I like James Bond, 007 stuff, but he latched onto that and kind of highlighted that a little bit more, and that kind of broke me out of my little artist block, writer block, whatever. And he just pitched a couple of stories that were more spy centric, and so I'm happy to explore that. And we're writing it. He's doing it the Marvel way, where he's just kind of he came up with the big plot, and then he broke it down to like 1 or 2 pages, or 2 or 3 or 4 pages, like lots of action here. This has to happen. And so I'm having a lot of fun with that. I don't know how close I am to the vision that he had for the pages, because I sent him some of the pages, and he's like, is this for this comic? And I was like, yeah, this is for this comic. This is what you wrote. He's like, oh, okay. I was like, yeah, I took some liberties, but as the creator of Alpha Red, I feel like I can take some liberties.
You're kind of throwing down the hammer.
No, we're just having fun. It's just all fun. So it's still fun, and he's a good sport. So
it's been how has it been in terms of a collaborative experience for you, where you do have a writer who's pitching the stories to you, and then you work in that aspect? Has there been anything where you guys have not necessarily butt heads about creative decisions, but things where maybe you took it in such a different direction, or maybe he wanted to take things in such a different direction, and you had to kind of come up with a compromise?
Not yet. I can't say that we did yet. The pitch that he gave me, I asked him for a 40-page. Actually, I asked him for a 32-page comic, because I just wanted a story, just a complete story that was in one comic. could lead to other stuff. I like a lot of the conversations that you've been having, where you encourage the creators to have a beginning, middle, end in every comic. So that's what I was aiming for, and I said, don't go past 48 pages. And so he shot back a 40-page comic, which was great. And the more I thought about it, the less time I knew I had to finish it this year with a 40-page. So I cut it down to a 20-page comic, and the story, there was a good breaking point in his story to break at the 20-page mark, and so that's what we're going with. And there's a good arc there. It ends. I don't know if I insisted or how it worked, but I said, hey, I want it to end like this at page 20 instead of it ending on like hey, they get whatever, like a halfway point. This is like an ending, but it can't end the way that it ends, because that's not a good ending for a comic. It's kind of a cliffhanger, and I don't want it to be a cliffhanger. But in one comic, it's fine. If it was a 40-page comic, it was halfway, and it was just, them getting beat, and they could get back up and figure it out. But they can't just get beat,
Yeah, they got to get back up.
Yeah.
Otherwise, there's no series.
Have to win. They have to win
You gotta find a way. You gotta find a way.
Yeah, I just want it to be a fun comic that people can pick up, and they don't have to know everything, but they just have to. They have all the pieces, all the ingredients of the story right there. And I like some of the things that I heard on other podcasts that you've done, where you point back to old issues, like, hey, this happened in issue number 5. This happened in issue number 4. Go look for it. You can still order it. You can get digital copies. You can contact me and pick it up. So
yeah, episodic comics, man. That was what made them great. The serialized, episodic, complete stories, and there was a continuity.
Yeah.
It just made comics stand out from the pack of other kinds of ways to tell a story. And speaking of which, now you could tell a story however you want, and there's so many different ways to tell it and so many different mediums to tell it. Why comic books?
Boy, I guess the best way to describe it is like it's the only avenue that I felt like I had all the control. You have the story in your head, and I was good at drawing. So if I could push out the story that I had in my head, I'm not a great reader. I don't read a lot, and that's why I went to comics. So for me, I like a lot of dialogue. So it's really weird, because I kind of walked away from comics for a spell when I was working a lot. I wasn't drawing, wasn't collecting comics. We didn't have the money for comics. And so when I walked away, Brian Michael Bendis was my favorite writer. And then I come back, and he's like the worst. He ruined everything, so, like, what happened?
Yeah, I hear you.
but he, like, his writing was influenced me as far as like a lot of dialogue, less narrative, less thought balloons, less, all that stuff that I didn't mind, but it just felt like, I don't know, it felt fresh at the time when he was doing New Avengers and whatever else. It just felt fresh, and that's, everybody was kind of imitating him. It wasn't Busick anymore, that kind of wordy kind of writing, Kurt Busick stuff. So that's kind of what I gravitated towards, but I'm liking the mix now of everything.
Oh yeah. I think comics needs the mix of it. I always loved being able to see the thoughts, the inner monologue of a character. Only because, if anything, storytelling wise, if the character is gonna just talk all the time and we never know their thoughts, they're gonna be talking a lot of times that don't make any sense to talk.
Right. Or they're not talking enough, and the artwork doesn't show you enough to get like a deep
Yeah.
understanding the character. You know, I don't know.
Yeah.
I remember watching Graham Nolan was on one of his podcasts, and they were talking about some of the older comics, and like they were talking about Captain America and like how they described Captain America walking into the room or something like that, and it made you think of him in a different way than just he's walking in a room, and depending on the artist to really convey the stoicism and the machismo and the heroics of that character, you know, and it was neat.
Yeah.
It's a good reminder.
I think there's some people go, you know, show, don't tell. I think people should show and tell, but don't do both about the same thing.
Right.
You know, so if you have an image playing out, action in particular, you don't need to then describe the action that you can see playing out. And I think that's where the show, don't tell really kind of comes into play. But some people take that and they run with it and they forget that you're a storyteller. You're sure, you know, you're not a story shower. You want to show in terms of the art. But when you have your writing and you're not using it effectively to kind of paint a fuller, more complete picture, you know, give your reader a full meal, not just like little crumbs all the time.
Right.
And there's a lot of writers that I feel like they rely too heavily on the art.
Mm-hmm.
And you flip through the book and you're done in like, you know, 2-3 minutes.
Yeah.
And then you go, I don't really know what the hell happened. You know, and especially then if you got an artist that's on the book that's not unbelievable, right, and can't visually convey every subtle nuance that might need to be conveyed. If the imagery isn't packed with little things here and there, right, man, like that, you could read through that whole book and go, I don't even know what I just read.
Yeah.
You know, but there's so much that could be added to it that I think that a lot of writers leave a very important weapon out of their arsenal. And that's so unfortunate because that helps, I think, bring you into the world. At least I always felt that way. It really helps me bring me into the scope of the mindsets of the characters, get familiar with the world, and really helps me to dive deeper into what's going on within that story, as opposed to almost like, and this happens a lot with film nowadays too, and also television shows. But it's almost like I feel there's too much interactivity expected upon the audience that they kind of end up coming up with their own fill-in for what's occurring, and creating their own like headcanon based on things because they don't want to tell too much. They want to show a lot, you know. But a lot of the time, you're leaving out important information. Storytelling at the core of it is about communication,
right?
And if you're not communicating those ideas, man, you know, don't like create a story and then you're like, hey audience, you know, this is like a Mad Lib, you fill it out. That's
well, the way they're writing some of these stories, you rather have some of the fans who love the characters fill in the blanks, because they're filling in the blanks in ways that we don't want them to, some of these writers.
Yeah, and that's a whole other different conversation in terms of how that goes. But yeah, it's interesting to see you talk about that and address that aspect of it in terms of getting back to more of a classic approach to storytelling. I think we've gotten very far away from that, and I think it'd be great to see us return to it. I think we will, slowly but surely. So in terms of what you're doing right now with your book, what's your overall plan for the series? Do you have a finite ending for it, or are you kind of just doing the whole I'm just gonna tell stories until no one wants them anymore?
Correct. Yeah. So more of that. You know, I don't think they have to be world-changing events all the time. I don't have this huge story arc that has a complete ending. Comics for me are like Spider-Man. Spider-Man is, to me, in his, you know, late 20s, early 30s, and he's been that way since I found him, in the 80s. So why can't Alpha Red be in his late 20s, early 30s until for another 75 years or whatever, however old Spider-Man is. So I don't have those kind of story arcs. I just, character is a huge emphasis for me. I want him to go through some things and grow as a character, but no, no story arc that, I don't have a finite thing, no.
Yeah, I like that approach to it. I know some people like the ending, and unless that's the point with like a mini series or a graphic novel or whatever, if you've got a character, especially a character-driven series, like Alpha Red's his name. This is about Alpha Red and what Alpha Red's doing. So every issue is like getting caught up with the day in the life.
Yeah.
And I like that aspect to it where it just feels like, all right, well, what's going on with this guy today in this issue?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because the end is death.
Yeah. And,
so when people are like, I gotta get it, where's the ending? I'm like, well, the ending is when the character dies.
Yeah. No, I mean,
and then there's no more of it.
I do like the big event stuff. So I mean, like in a perfect world, I'd be able to do, like, there'd be an issue of Alpha Red every month, and then I would draw the annual, like the big event thing, the 48 pager. Every other story could be drawn by anybody else, written by anybody else, and it would just be him fighting another villain, or a villain returns, or he's teaming up with somebody else over here, and just like fun stuff, just comic book stuff, comic book superhero stuff. And then once every other year, he could, there could be a big event where it crosses over to something, or the devil comes back, or something big. That'd be ideal. Big vision.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, you picked a really big bad guy that I don't think you're ever gonna really be able to get rid of.
Right. There's an ending to that. So, yeah. But he loses. Ultimately, he loses. So that's okay.
Well, he stews and broods and concocts another scheme.
Yeah.
Comics for Life is asking, is your style of storytelling more 70s, 80s, or 90s?
So my storytelling, like my artwork, is mostly 90s. It's mostly influenced by Jim Lee and Joe Madureira. I used to say Joe Quesada, but his art got a little too detailed and too cartoony in a weird way. Like Joe Madureira's cartoony in like this, I don't know, in a very masculine way, where, not that Joe Quesada's wasn't masculine, but it was, I don't know, the proportions were a little too wonky for me. And then Lee is like just so, it's like what superheroes are supposed to look like. I don't know. That's who I found, and I found Todd McFarlane first, and then I found Jim Lee. But Jim Lee is the one who inspired me to want to draw comic books. Like I was just going to be a regular artist. I thought I was just going to draw portraits and still life or whatever. But then Jim Lee's artwork made it seem doable, but not to take anything away from him. But I don't know, it inspired me to try to copy him. And so my art style is definitely more 90s-ish, 90s, 2000-ish, right in there.
I don't know if there's anything that's ever been documented or if they've ever said, but I always thought that there was definitely some kind of anime manga influence on those big artists from the 90s, like McFarlane and Jim Lee. And because especially if you look at early McFarlane, like Jim Lee, you could kind of see as he developed that things sort of shifted and changed and evolved. But early McFarlane, like Infinity Inc. and stuff like that, is like you couldn't even tell that was McFarlane.
Yeah.
But it almost seems as if like they brought that energy, the compositioning of a lot of the anime and manga that was going on, especially in the 80s.
Yeah.
And then kind of had like this Amera manga thing going on.
Yeah.
But it's beautiful. I love it. I was drawn to it as a kid. I still love it. I still flip through the comics now, and I'm like, half of these pages look like they should be a poster.
Yeah.
Because they're just so vibrant and dynamic.
Yep.
And it's like you look at it and you go, No wonder why they sold so well.
Yeah, yeah,
It's just visually interesting. You could not have any words at all,
yeah.
and they were such strong visual storytellers that you could get a gist of how that story was going,
Right.
and and enjoy it and see visually. It's the opposite of what we were talking about earlier, where sometimes there's not enough visually to tell the story.
Right, right. And it depends on the artist too. Like I was looking at, so when I was on Robert Geronimo's stream, I think he asked me, one of the people in the chat asked me what comic got me into drawing comic books, and well, this is the facsimile, but this is X-Men 268.
Oh yeah, that's a great issue.
Yeah. So, like when I saw it in the comic store this past week, I was like, I gotta have it. It was like $10, but I had to have it because I didn't know where mine was. And then I came home and I had 2 issues of the original. So I was like, ah.
Nice.
But I was looking through it again, and all the details. Like he has like mice running around on the ground, and just like he put so much into it that it's no wonder we were inspired by the details that he put in.
Oh yeah, yeah. That's a fantastic issue, and that's another thing with that issue too. It's a testament to the fact that you could have these almost not that issue. I don't know if it's a filler issue. I don't know if I could call it that, but it wasn't necessarily part of like some big gigantic storyline.
Yeah.
It was like a nice story.
Yeah.
It wasn't this big event. It wasn't this big, huge to do.
It connected Captain America and Wolverine in the past.
Yep.
And then it revealed that Captain America knew more about Wolverine than Wolverine knew about himself at the time, because Wolverine didn't remember. So it was awesome. And
yeah,
Black Widow, that was like, I had a huge crush on Black Widow because of that. The way he drew her, it's practically naked. For a 15-year-old boy, that was close as you can get to bad thing.
Well, that's the spandex and superhero for you. It's it doesn't leave much to the imagination.
It did not.
For both sexes.
That's right.
But that's the thing, is that you're talking about storytelling in such a classic sense, such a timeless sense.
Mm-hmm.
I find there's a lot of that type of stuff that's missing nowadays, and it's great to see a lot of creators like yourself and many others too. I'm seeing more and more that the more they start telling these stories, the more they're gravitating towards, I really like these characters. I don't want to keep trying to do like some big mini series, or I don't want it to just end and never have another story with them. So you keep coming up with different situations and different stories and different plots, and then you get other characters involved, or maybe you put them in a different setting. That's classic stuff, and we need more of that.
Yeah. No, I'd love to see Alfred on pillowcases and whatever else. I got little statues of them.
Oh, there you go.
They're all
very cool.
So I'd love for people to get excited.
Yeah.
Like I get excited for like Spider-Man, or
Oh yeah, nothing like it. It's great. Never gets old. Boombot says, describe your take on Satan. What powers or weapons does he use? What evil is he trying to do, etc.?
Yeah, so in my story, Satan has been betrayed by his right-hand demon, so he has been trapped in a human body that has been made immortal. So Satan has no superpowers. He just has his brain, his evil brain, and his evil brain has bribed his way into having the government fund creating an army of transforming robot tanks for him. So he's going to use that to take over the world. So he's trying to get back at he's trying to reclaim his dark throne from Ashby, his right-hand demon. And so 40 years he's been planning and plotting and seething.
How deep are you diving into biblical lore with this series?
Not too deep. Just because I don't know, like I did think about that. There are other Christian comic books that I read currently, and they go a lot deeper, and they're definitely they're thinking about it more. I was just having a lot of fun, and I go, oh, wouldn't it be cool? Wouldn't this be cool? Wouldn't Well, they're doing like the opposite. They're reading the Bible, and they go, wow, that'd be cool if that was in this story, and I went the other way. So, but yeah, I wish it was deeper. I wish I thought a little bit more about it. Like I did look up some symbolism and things, and I put it in the design of the devil. Like he wears like this wrestling belt almost, like the big championship wrestling belt, and it's got like as many demonic symbols in it as I could fit.
Just,
yeah,
you're unleashing something, James.
Yeah, and then he casts a spell. It's like it's a good scene. It's a fun scene, and it actually I put it right in the front. Then I went back and retro. Oops, no, that's not it. So I'll show you. So that's him, and this is when he gets betrayed. So I took it from issue 3. I don't know if you can see it, but
yeah.
He casts a spell, and as he's casting a spell on somebody else, Ashby is behind him casting his own spell. He gets him trapped in a mortal body. So not a whole lot of demonic, supernatural stuff goes on in this, except at the end they're fighting demons with wings and horns and stuff.
Do you get specific at all? Are you bringing in any angels or demons in any specific way?
Archangel Michael comes and helps him. There's some artifacts that he uses and just minimal stuff. I had a story, and then I had a bigger story, and then I knew that I didn't have the time to have him chasing MacGuffins all over the world for biblical artifacts in order to take care of the devil. So there's just 2 or 3 artifacts, and they're easier to get than the original, like globe spanning epic that I wanted to write. But yeah, I wish I could say that I dug deeper, but it was just things that I thought were cool that I pulled into the story to help make the story work.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, you always can. You always can kind of develop things further and deeper if you want, in terms of it's where it's an episodic series.
Yeah.
You could always kind of start developing in that road. I mean, I love the stories and the aspect of everything and all of that stuff. Just not even in Christianity, but in everything, every kind of culture, ancient culture, etc. That stuff just always speaks to me. I'm fascinated by it. I absolutely love all of it. I'm not really a religious person, but I'm a very spiritual person, and I'm very interested and fascinated by history and by culture. So I love all of that, and I think Jesus was an incredible philosopher. And that goes without saying, but still, it's one of those things where I think if people could, at least if they didn't feel that they were inclined towards belief or religion or however they want to frame it, to just even soak in the stories and the lessons and the things that are taking place and the philosophy for so many things. I think maybe we'd have more of an appreciation for our humanity and maybe each other.
Yeah.
But that's the thing, is that I think that's the core of it, and then that's the stuff that I think is so great, and I think that's what really resonates with so many over time, because it's like anything else. It's storytelling, man.
Yeah, absolutely. And the Bible is a big story. It's
the greatest story ever told, right?
Right. So, no, that's and we gravitate towards story. We want to hear about heroic things and amazing things, and and the possibilities that exist out there outside of our rooms. Right now we're you're in my phone, like I'm in your computer, like we're not in the world. I think about some of the things that I heard you talk about, like the monoliths and stuff when you reposted the Nerdrotic interview. And
yeah.
You guys geek out about some of the ancient history stuff and the cryptid stuff, and I tried fingerprint of the gods with Graham.
yeah.
And I was like, what is going on? Like, why don't we know more of this stuff? Why aren't history books full of this kind of stuff?
Yeah, there's a tremendous amount of human history that
Yeah.
isn't even like prehistory.
Right.
It's not prehistoric as far as we would understand. If anything,
Yeah.
it seems like it's far more advanced than we give any of it credit for.
Yeah.
And yet so much of it is kind of just shrugged at or completely dismissed. And it's,
Yeah.
you'll see like there's hundreds of sunken cities.
Yeah.
And yet it's all kind of dismissed.
Yeah. They talk about giants, like these statues that they build, and they're like that. You walk in the book, he walks up on a face of like an African. It has African features, but it's in South America, where no understanding of like there was no African people there at the time period that we know of, and like who would have made this perfectly beautiful, gigantic African head in the middle of the jungle? Why is it there?
Yeah.
Nobody's curious.
Yeah, and there's like you were talking about with giants and things like that. There's tons of stories like that throughout every kind of culture.
Yeah.
And then there's skeletal remains and things like that. There's also things that don't seem possible to have been built without the aid of very strong 9 to 10 foot tall beings.
Yeah.
Like there's people, I mean, I'm at the grocery store at the time, like the little old lady's like, can you get that for me up there? And meanwhile you get these huge things built sometimes in ways where you're like, oh well, maybe they used a crane or they did this, they did that. Okay, well, do they have evidence ever of a crane?
Yeah.
Have they reported giant cranes being built and propped up, not just like leverage and pulley systems and things like that? I mean, the astounding lengths I think that people will go to just kind of dismiss the possibility of those things being existing.
Yeah.
To me, it's more fantastical than just saying like, yeah, that must have existed at some point in time. We got to look into that. And if cranes and things like that existed and mechanized whatever, we got to look into that too.
Yeah. Where are they?
Yeah.
Are they now?
Right? Did we just like take them apart, repurpose them at the scrap yard in ancient Mesopotamia, and then just send them off to ancient Egypt, so you guys can use this whole clunker?
Yeah. And what are what were the weird things in Peru? The big drawings that I'm talking about, the monkey.
Oh the Nazca lines. You're talking about those?
Yeah. Like I just found out about them. I'm like, what? Like who would have drawn them? How would they have, I don't know.
Yeah. And some of them are like 1 to 2 miles.
You wouldn't know it unless you were in a plane, flying over top. Otherwise it's just, like a road that goes here and then goes there, and you would never see it unless you were miles up. So
yeah, and even if it's not to impress some being from the sky, I'm still marveling at the fact that they could put that on the ground.
Yeah.
Without having someone up there saying like, all right, it looks okay.
Yeah.
It's fascinating. It's fascinating.
Yeah.
Comics for Life wants to know King Cryptid versus Alpha Red, who would win?
Ooh.
I don't know.
Yeah, so Alpha Red is just kind of he's strong, he's fast, and he's smart. Because he's got the chip in his brain. It's like the Matrix. You can plug in any kind of information into his brain, and then he's just faster. He's like Captain America, just the strongest guy, the fastest human that you can think of. But I don't know. I'm waiting for my 4 issues of King Cryptid. They're not. They haven't arrived yet. So
Did you order from? Did you order
I
the catch-up tier?
I don't know. I got the so I added your four to the campaign from Indiegogo. So I'm getting a random issue of Blood Realm, if issue number 14.
Oh,
And then
okay. So you just had back the April campaign. All right. So yeah, they'll arrive like maybe in 2 months or something like that.
yeah, yeah.
All right. Yeah,
But then,
yeah. Well,
and then I'll see who would win.
with King Cryptid, it's definitely going to depend upon what time of the day, what
Ooh,
night, what phase of the moon. Because on a full moon, King Cryptid is practically, he's not unstoppable, but he's pretty damn close. Like his healing factor's way up. His strength is, I mean, he's lifting tons as opposed to a couple 100 pounds. His speed is a lot quicker. He's got some heightened supernatural abilities because of the phases of the moon with his cosmic moonstone. But then if it's like a new moon or if it's the daytime, his powers get depleted and they don't recharge. On a full moon, they keep recharging with as long as he is exposed to the light of the moon. So that's the other thing too that I get into the story with is that sometimes maybe it's a full moon, but those moon rays aren't reaching.
yeah.
So he uses his power but doesn't recharge. So yeah, it really depends with King Cryptid when you meet him. But otherwise, he's a big dude, 7'2", 400 pounds. But
Well,
Alpha Red sounds like at his peak, he could beat King Cryptid easily at King Cryptid's lowest,
okay. No,
or
I'm
maybe
yeah,
depends who's writing.
yeah. The chemtrails are out. They're hiding the moon.
That's the old joke, right? Is that everyone's like, well, who would win in this? It's well, whoever's the writer wants to win. They'll
Exactly.
they'll find a way.
Yeah.
So I'm sure James would find a way for Alpha Red, and I'm sure I'd find a way for King
I'm
Cryptid.
I'm a generous guy. As long as you kill my guy, he'll fight another day.
Yeah, exactly. There you go. Man, oh man. Um, Raymond wants to know, what can you tell us about the upcoming Alpha Red issue number 6?
Why don't you
I'm
tell me,
guessing this is your writer.
writer? He can tell you. He can say whatever I didn't change, whatever I don't change on him.
There you
I'm gonna
go.
draw. So I listened to a bunch of people talk about how Stan Lee had to work with Jack Kirby and one of the other artists, where they would just like he would give them a general story and then they would write most of the story and then he would have to figure out. Stan Lee would have to figure out what they wanted. They would write notes in the side to tell him what they wanted to happen. But I'm gonna try to put young Raymond through the same gauntlet.
There you go. There you go. He's gonna put you through the paces there, Ray, and keep it up. All right, man. So I have to ask you one thing. Now we discussed a lot about faith in comics, especially your faith being put into your comics.
Mhm.
But I do want to ask you: do you have faith in comics, in the state of it, and how it's going right now?
Yeah. So I mean, I don't feel like the position that I'm in. Nobody, never worked in comics before with a guy that nobody's ever heard. Like Alpha Red, nobody's heard of that. I'm not gonna save the industry, right? But can it be saved? I think it can't. It'll always exist. I think because there's always going to be people drawing, doodling, writing a story, and then people are going to be inspired by it and attracted to it. So it'll never go away. But like what we had before with Marvel and DC and that kind of ubiquitousness of the characters, I don't know that can come back. Because the distribution is not there and the commitment from Marvel and DC aren't there anymore. They're just these IPs, and these companies just use that as a mouthpiece for whatever they're trying to push on you. So I don't know that I think we've seen the end of the best of the superhero stuff that is known by everybody, and in this time of internet and independent comics and you know, you can get access to so many things so quickly, and you could probably make a living doing a comic book that nobody even knows about, like Ice Song and Cyberfrog and whoever. They're making all kinds of money, and there's a lot of people who don't know who either one of those characters are.
Oh yeah,
So
yeah.
creators are gonna be able to make a living, but will there be another Spider-Man or Batman or Superman? You know, I say probably not.
I guess time will have to tell, right? What
Yeah.
we'll need, man. Let me see. They probably had about 20 to 30 years of being around before it became like a kind of a breakthrough into maybe TV or movies or whatever.
Hmm.
But especially in terms of from now to when they were created, you're talking about a long time, lifetime, a lifetime worth of waiting
Yeah.
around to see that character become what it became.
Right. Right. And there were so many generations that were inspired, and then they grew up and they got to write their heroes, and they knew their heroes, and they respected the lore. And it doesn't feel like Marvel and DC have that anymore. Like the creators are coming in. It feels like they're being told what direction to write things, and it's it doesn't necessarily have to sound or feel like the original character. They're just in this skin suit of whatever message that they want to push on us. So
Yeah, and man, I definitely agree with a lot of what you're saying, and it's interesting to see that it's playing out when we're seeing it play out, because people are always like, you kind of miss something that happened, and as oh, that happened like before my time or whatever, but right now we're kind of seeing what really does feel like it's this era of comics is different now more than ever before in terms
yeah,
of those changes. And I know some people are like, well, comics always go through changes and this and that and whatever, but these are not wholly comic, and I mean wholly like WHOLLY comic companies, and they haven't been that way for a long time.
right.
And it's really manifested at this point into becoming just like a subdivision of a corporate conglomerate,
Yeah,
that it's just another thing in the portfolio for that company. And all you need is not even a full generation to pass, and you have new ownership that has absolutely no tie, no sentimentality, doesn't care whatsoever about any of this stuff.
hmm,
And you're going to see big sweeping changes across the board.
yep,
But it's interesting though, because like what you had said, comics are always going to be around, and that's an important fact to remember. And too many people equate the comic industry or comics as a medium being primarily the big companies,
hmm,
and that couldn't be further from the truth.
right.
So I love seeing the fact that, conversely, as like the big, they too big to fail kind of a thing is stumbling. I love seeing the fact that there's people that are inspired maybe by what came before with what they loved, and now they're making their own stories, their own characters, all these great things, and just give them time, and I hope that they stick with it. And anything that you stick with and you put your time and effort towards, that greatness is on the horizon. So I hope that the people that are out there that are making their stories, yourself included, I hope they stick with it. And it's not going to be easy, but nothing worth doing really ever is.
Yeah,
So keep at it.
yeah. No, I appreciate it. I appreciate the support. Yeah, no,
No
that's
problem.
I want to create something that inspires other people, just like Spider-Man and those heroes inspired me. And it's a great pastime. It's a great avenue to express yourself. Comics, storytelling. So
Oh yeah, yeah. What I find that's something it's so important, and you touched upon it as well, about all these different creators and stories and characters that have managed to stand the test of time and resonate with millions upon millions of people over the years. That's legacy.
yeah,
That's something that do you as intangible as it is, it's also unbelievably tangible. You know, this means stuff. This means something big to
Yeah.
people.
Sure.
You know, and I think going into it as a comic creator, I know sometimes it just feels like, is anyone out there?
Mm-hmm.
Is anyone reading what I'm doing? Does anyone care about it?
Yeah.
And I know what that's like. I know that sometimes it feels tough, and it can get to you. But seriously, I really hope people stick with it, and I hope if you're ever feeling like that, if you ever felt that way too, I hope you stick with it as well, and keep moving forward with it. You know, look back at where you've come from and look how far you've come. People don't give themselves enough credit for achieving things that they never thought they could have ever achieved. You just need, what is it, like you need, I forget the quote, I forget who said it, but it's something about, you know, all you need is a lot of time and dedication, and you can accomplish pretty much anything.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's perseverance, right? This is it's a grind, but it's your passion. Like the story just wouldn't let me sleep. You know, Alpha Red had to exist, and it would just eat away at me. And he sat, you know, I had pages that were sketched out, thumbnails that were just crying to be drawn, and so it comes out. It has to come out. Let them out.
That's great. Yeah, that's the thing. You know, you're getting that idea. You're getting that story in you, that character in you, that purpose, earworming its way into your heart, your mind, your soul, for a reason.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's a positive. That's a pure positive. Get that out into the world. We need more of that.
It gives you purpose too. You know, you're creating something. You're creating something that maybe only matters to you right now, but I'm inspiring my kids, and I think, you know, I've got kids that are being inspired. I've got, you know, people around me who watch me not give up, because, you know, this has been a dream. I was going to graduate high school at 18, move out to California, get a job with Jim Lee's studio, and off to the races. And none of that happened. But I told everybody that was going to happen, and not even close. But you know, here I am. You know, and that's the best part about the campaigns. When you put it out there, you put it on social media, and you never know who supports you. And friends from grade school that I haven't talked to in 20, 30 years.
Oh, no way. Wow.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. And it's, you know, it's amazing. It's amazing.
Yeah.
But
well,
Duran Lee, we used to come out of school, go behind the apartment building where there was a playground, and that was like our fortress. You know, we would scream something. I forget what we would scream when we would see each other, and it was some kind of, like, you know, space force, army something. And he's one of my biggest supporters on Kickstarter.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah,
man. Yeah, you never know. The Lord works in mysterious ways.
Amen to that. Amen to that.
100%.
Yeah.
All right, man. Well, thank you so much, James, for being on here today. Really appreciate the conversation.
Yeah.
And it was great having you on here.
No,
before you go, where would you like to tell people to go? Where can they find you?
Yeah, so I guess right now I just started the my YouTube channel. So if you go to alpharedcomic.com, I'm going to start posting videos on just what I'm doing with Alpha Red, and making independent comics, highlighting other faith-based comics. I got a pile over here. I didn't know if we could get into some of the faith-based comics that I'm influenced by, and things that have come before and what they look like now. But I'm going to review some of that stuff and point people to that, and just kind of walk people through the independent creation of a comic book.
Nice.
We'll be inspired by that.
So you said you'll put those on your YouTube?
So I'll put those videos. I'll make videos about reviewing some of those faith-based comics.
Okay.
The comics can be bought at jamesq.net. That's my Etsy store, and so you can pick up copies of Alpha Red.
All right, fantastic. Oh, and thank you, SDA, putting that link in there. So there's James' YouTube channel. It's also in the description of the show. But yeah, there you go. SDA is always good with he's Johnny on the spot with those links.
Awesome. I appreciate
it.
Yeah, that was the Kickstarter that just ended.
Oh,
Thank you.
fantastic. Oh, Cole, thank you, man. Says you gifted 5 memberships today. So if
Awesome.
you're one of the lucky people in the chat, congrats. And Cole, thank you so much, man. That's awesome of you. All right. Well, James, thank you so much again for your time, for the conversation, and best of luck with everything that you do and what the future holds for you, my friend.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Pete.
No problem. Everybody, thank you guys for being here tonight. Thank you guys for being in the chat. Your questions, your comments are always appreciated. If you enjoy the video, give it a thumbs up. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. Make sure you ring that bell for notifications. There's always a lot of different interviews on the channel, a lot of different topics and whatnot. Tomorrow night, I'll be back at 10 o'clock Eastern to talk about editing. Editing. It is a mystery among comics.
It is something that is missing in.
Indeed. I'll be talking about all kinds of different things revolving around that topic tomorrow night. And until then, I hope I see you guys there. Have a wonderful evening and an even better tomorrow. I'll see you guys soon. All the best.